Look, you think you know what top-tier long-range precision looks like? Most shooters think the domestic market is the only place to find real innovation, and it is costing them hits at 2 miles.
Oops.
But while everyone else was looking at the same old chassis systems, the Europeans just quietly rebuilt the entire long-range paradigm from the ground up. And right now, I am pulling the curtain back on the 7 absolute monsters that are making everything else look like a range toy. Kicking things off at number 7 is the Bergara B14 HMR. Forged in Spain, this rig is the ultimate bridge between field maneuverability and heavy match-grade precision. It feeds heavily on 6.5 Creedmoor and slings .308 Winchester downrange with an authority that makes custom builders sweat. Because it is built directly on the legendary Remington 700 footprint, it gives you absolute and seamless compatibility with the largest aftermarket ecosystem of accessories on the planet. Looking under the hood, the true secret to its massive success is the internal aluminum mini chassis molded directly into the proprietary polymer stock. This specific engineering choice provides an utterly rigid bedding block for the action, completely preventing any torque or environmental warping from translating to the barrel when you're firing. Combine that solid foundation with their diamond-honed 4140 chromoly steel barrels, and you get a mirror-like internal finish that guarantees supreme inherent accuracy. Honestly, there is a serious deal-breaker when it comes to the sheer mass of this setup, tipping the scales right around 9.5 pounds completely bare. Dragging this crossover rifle up a steep alpine ridge will absolutely smoke your legs. It is perfectly manageable from a prone bipod position, but if you are stalking wild game through miles of thick brush, you will be cursing every single extra ounce of that heavy contour barrel. Setting you back anywhere from 1100 to 1800, it effectively commoditizes sub-minute of angle performance for the everyday shooter. The 2 lug bolt features a coned nose that strips rounds out of the magazine flawlessly, and the trigger snaps crisper than a frozen pine branch. Sending heavy rounds downrange feels incredibly smooth, delivering a recoil impulse that just pushes into your shoulder like a firm shove rather than a sharp and punishing punch. Stepping up the game at number 6 is the Tikka T3x TAC A1. Built in Finland, this absolute workhorse democratized extreme precision by dropping a proven sporting action right into a rugged tactical aluminum chassis. It eats 6.5 Creedmoor for breakfast and spits it out with military-grade consistency. You're looking at a platform that routinely embarrasses custom rigs costing triple the money. Diving into the mechanics, the real magic lies in the Teflon-coated 2 lug bolt paired with a fast 70-degree lift. This proprietary anti-friction coating ensures the bolt glides forward with practically zero resistance, completely eliminating binding when you're running the gun hard and fast in dirty environments. Combine that heavily coated bolt with a widened ejection port, and your empty brass clears the chamber flawlessly every single time you cycle the action. Look, the finish on the factory folding stock mechanism is a massive disappointment. If you drag this rig through gravel or beat it up on barricades during a match, that hinge point starts showing aggressive wear and tear faster than a cheap paint job. It will absolutely not stop the gun from firing, but leaving bare metal exposed on a precision rifle drives perfectionists totally crazy. The damage to your wallet sits around $1,700 to $2,400. Since Sako uses the exact same cold hammer forging machinery for these barrels as their Tier 1 sniper systems, you get out-of-the-box accuracy that feels like cheating. The 2-stage trigger breaks like snapping a dry glass rod, and the recoil taps your shoulder like a polite thump. Now we get serious at number 5 with the Blaser R8 Ultimate. Coming straight out of Germany, this straight-pull masterpiece violently disrupts everything you thought you knew about traditional turn-bolt actions. It slings practically anything from rimfire to massive dangerous game loads, but the Silence Blackout variant eats 300 AAC Blackout for breakfast. You're looking at the undisputed king of rapid follow-up shots and dense European brush. Under the hood, the sheer engineering genius here lies entirely in the 14-lug radial locking collet. Instead of relying on standard locking lugs that force you to lift a bolt handle, you simply pull straight back, causing the cullet to expand 360 degrees directly into the barrel extension. This highly specific linear geometry provides a lockup surface area massively larger than standard actions, allowing it to safely handle immense chamber pressures, while you cycle the weapon blindingly fast without ever lifting your head from the stock. Let us be completely honest about the downside. The proprietary ecosystem will absolutely drain your bank account. Nobody can just slap a standard set of scope rings on this receiver. You're forced to buy their exclusive saddle mount system, which costs a small fortune just to attach your optic. It definitely guarantees a perfect return to zero by locking directly into the barrel, but your wallet will be hurting. Street price is anywhere from $5,600 to over $10,000. The aerospace-grade carbon fiber stock absorbs energy perfectly, making the recoil feel like a heavy push from a thick oak door. Pulling the trigger feels as crisp as snapping a fresh carrot. This straight pull is undeniably solid, but wait until you see the absolute monster waiting at number 1. Turning up the heat at number 4 is the Steyr SSG M1 A2. Coming out of Austria, this updated legend proves that legacy manufacturers can absolutely dominate the modern modular battlefield. It pushes .338 Lapua Magnum downrange, delivering devastating terminal performance out to distances that make average shooters dizzy. Because they integrated a full-length Arca Swiss rail seamlessly into the handguard, it locks into tripods like a heavy steel bank vault. Looking at the mechanics, you have to understand exactly how Steyr crafts their legendary cold hammer forged barrels. They physically compress and densify the molecular structure of the steel around a solid mandrel under thousands of pounds of extreme pressure. This brutal forging process aligns the steel grain perfectly, which gives the barrel an extraordinarily long service life while preventing point-of-impact shifts when the metal gets blazing hot during sustained strings of fire. I know the fanboys will absolutely hate this, but sound off below in the comments if you trust this rig, because those heavy-duty locking lugs have a serious quirk. The action runs flawlessly with premium match brass, but if you try feeding it slightly out of spec or cheap surplus ammunition, the tight chamber tolerances will cause incredibly stubborn extraction issues. It is a thoroughbred machine, and it simply demands high-end fuel to run without locking up on you. Expect to drop roughly $6,800 to $7,000 on this platform. Releasing the double-column 10-round steel magazines is incredibly smooth, dropping free without a single hint of friction. Pulling the 2-stage trigger brakes just like stepping through thin winter ice, and the heavy chassis soaks up the recoil so it just feels like a firm and steady push. Entering the elite tier at number 3 is the Victrix Armaments Gladio. Crafted in Italy, this platform shows exactly what happens when aerospace engineering aggressively collides with artisanal obsession. It effortlessly slings 6.5 Creedmoor downrange, bringing brutal efficiency to elite sniper units across Europe. Underneath the heavy barrel, the high-strength monoblock aluminum chassis comes heavily layered with rail space for thermal clips, making it an absolute nightmare for anything hiding in the dark. Looking at the beating heart of this system, you will find an asymmetric 3-lug bolt oriented exactly at 105 degrees. Milled from a solid billet of AISI 630 stainless steel and treated with a physical vapor deposition finish, This radical lug geometry provides incredible lockup strength. Because of the deep fluting machined into the body, it channels away dirt and ice, completely eliminating the need for heavy liquid lubricants that just turn into grinding paste out in the sand. Listen, the deal breaker here involves the ridiculously over-engineered retractable monopod. The dual macro and fine adjustment threading system sounds great on paper, but under the clock in a dirty tactical environment, the controls feel incredibly stiff and unintuitive to deploy. Honestly, most operators will probably just strip the entire assembly off and run a standard rear sandbag to save themselves the headache. You will part with about $5,600 to $10,300 for this Italian stallion. Pulling the dual-stage professional trigger breaks cleanly at exactly 49 ounces, snapping like a perfectly dried twig. Sending a round generates a recoil impulse that hits your shoulder like a dull thud from a heavy medicine ball. Closer to the crown now. Closer to the crown at number 2 is the Sako TRG M10. Hailing directly from Finland, this multi-caliber beast is the undisputed standard-issue nightmare of Northern Europe, built specifically to survive brutal Arctic warfare. It eats 300 Norma Magnum and 338 Lapua Magnum for breakfast, punching through heavy crosswinds like a runaway freight train. Sako engineered a fully self-contained ecosystem that seamlessly transitions from a compact urban problem solver to an extreme long-range asset without missing a single beat. The absolute genius of the M10 lies entirely in its foolproof caliber conversion architecture. Sako engineers recognize that operators freezing in the snow cannot risk fumbling with loose gunsmithing tools. So, they brilliantly integrated the required Torx keys and a proprietary hook wrench directly into the bolt handle and a specialized lower receiver compartment. You can physically swap out the cold, hammer-forged barrels in pitch-black darkness by feeling the highly visible tactile indicators, making it mechanically impossible to assemble mismatched components during a high-stress deployment. But here is the deal breaker. The factory folding stock latch is absurdly stiff right out of the box. If you need to rapidly deploy this heavy rifle from a vehicle or a compact drag bag, unlocking that hinge requires a massive amount of brute force that will absolutely bruise the heel of your palm. It eventually loosens up after a few hundred aggressive repetitions, but for a Tier 1 military system, you would expect a much smoother locking mechanism on day 1. The damage to your wallet sits heavily between $12,200 and $13,199. The massively reinforced cold hammer forged steel receiver guarantees total rigidity, and sending a heavy round delivers a recoil impulse that feels like a slow and heavy wave rather than a sharp punch. Pulling the legendary 2-stage trigger breaks just like snapping a thick piece of chalk. Taking the absolute crown at number 1 is the Accuracy International AXSR. Forged in the United Kingdom, this absolute titan of the Tier 1 military sector represents the apex of zero-compromise extreme long-range supremacy. It feeds on 300 Norma Magnum and effortlessly slings 338 Lapua Magnum, standing ready for the most austere environments on Earth. When you need to neutralize a target at distances that require calculating the curvature of the Earth, this is the exact tool you pull from the armory. The technical supremacy of this rig comes entirely from their patented quick-lock barrel change system. Using just a single hex key safely stored right under the adjustable cheek piece, you can completely swap the in-house cut rifled barrel in a matter of minutes. Because the indexing mechanism is utterly perfect, it guarantees an absolute return to zero, letting operators transition seamlessly between heavy calibers without ever firing a single confirmation round to check their optic. It takes the throne because it brings the raw and brute force durability of the Sako TRG M10, but pairs it with an exponentially more refined and granular chassis system that completely puts the Steyr SSG M1 to shame. The toolless adjustability on the target style butt pad offers modification in highly granular 3.2mm increments. This perfectly molds the rifle to any operator wearing heavy body armor, something the rigid legacy system simply cannot match during high-stress positional shooting. Expect to write a check for $11,500 to $14,295. Cycling the short throw 60-degree front locking bolt is faster than a striking rattlesnake, keeping your ocular bell clear and your eye permanently glued to the target. Pulling the trigger feels like snapping a crisp piece of celery, while the recoil pushes back like a steady shove from a heavy oak beam, keeping you perfectly stable for the follow-up shot. Look, the landscape has shifted. We are not just talking about minor upgrades or different paint jobs anymore. We are talking about a total European takeover of the precision rifle world. From the artisanal Italian engineering of Victrix and the straight pull speed of the Blaser, to the bomb-proof British reliability of Accuracy International. These 7 platforms prove that if you want to stay relevant in 2026, you cannot be running outdated technology from a decade ago. The mechanical precision is there, the modularity is absolute, and the ruggedness is beyond anything we have seen in previous generations. Stop settling for budget rigs that fail when the pressure is on or the environment turns hostile. If you are serious about hitting targets at 2 miles or securing a perimeter, you need a tool that was built for the mission, not just a range toy with a fancy chassis. It is time to stop following the crowd and start investing in a system that actually delivers when it matters most. If you want the raw truth without the fluff, lock it in right here.